We're the United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, May the 1st. Can you believe, Mary, it's May the 1st?
Happy May Day.
Happy May Day to everyone out there. This is show number 157. That means that we have started our fourth year as Changing Times. What a blessing that we've done and been able to do that for 4 years. And we have got a very special show today. We have a very special guest. I'm Lynn Morris.
And I'm Dr. Mary Byrne.
Yes, you are. And we have a very special guest. He is Stephen Paul McCollum. You just got through hearing his patriotic song. He is a Nashville country music singer. And I'm going to read a little bit about him just to make sure we kind of introduce him correctly. He's going to tell us, we're going to play 3 of his songs. And we're going to, and he's going to tell you why he's singing those songs and what his plan is. And we're going to try to help him in Southwest Missouri and maybe other parts of this country as he's got a plan from God. So I think this is really going to be cool. But the interesting thing about Stephen Paul McCollum, he is a promoted country music artist from Nashville. He was a first place winner in the Marlboro Country Music Contest. I'm sure there was hundreds of people trying out for that contest first place. He had 4 top 10 CCMA chart songs. And then he opened for different people like George Strait, Hank Williams Jr., Ricky Skaggs, just a lot of different people. He's using the same producer today. His name is Kent Wells. That's the same producer that Dolly Parton uses. He runs with those people. He knows those people. But the interesting thing, I think, what was the artist? Toby Keith. Toby Keith just died not too long ago, and he was a country music patriotic singer. And so I really think somebody like Stephen Paul McCollum is going to really help take his place and at the right time in America. That we need more patriotism. So, Stephen, are you there where you can hear us and see us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I can see you too. So you're looking good. So what else do we need to know? Because your song is going to be the opening song video on all our shows from now on, and also the ending. And what else do they need to know about you? We've got people from all over the country watching our show right now.
Well, I can tell you just a little background from how this all got started, if you want.
Sure.
I'm actually from Kansas City originally. I was born and raised in Kansas City area. Have you all been to Kansas City before?
Sure.
On the Missouri side or the Kansas City side? Or the
on
Kansas
the Missouri
side?
I was born on the Missouri side. Been on both sides of that.
Kansas City Chiefs, world champions again. I mean, some of these states may be a little jealous, but Kansas City Chiefs won again.
All right. So we're talking to a Missourian here.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think back. I first started singing in a barbershop quartet, believe it or not, at Worlds of Fun. If you're familiar with Worlds of Fun, we were the barbershop quartet. And we were all going to Shawnee Mission South High School, and we sang on the riverboat out there at Worlds of Fun, and then at Washington Street Station, which was a big spaghetti place downtown. So that's where I got my start. I was 17 when the first time I started singing and making a little money. So it was a really good experience doing that. And then from there, I started playing the guitar before then. But there's just so much that has happened since then. We put a band together called the Timberland Band, and it was a great band. We had great harmonies, and we had a lot of fun. And we got in that WDAF 61 country contest. Gosh, that was in way back, and we actually won that contest and went to got a trip to Nashville back then, and we were on "You Can Be a Star," and we didn't win that one. It was disappointing, but I think we were so young, we were kind of stiff on stage, not moving.
Hmm.
We were nervous, and that didn't help us. So we didn't do good on that. But then I stayed on in Nashville myself, and it was playing the guitar and doing a single act in places like the Opryland Hotel. You're probably familiar with that,
Sure,
and
sure.
yeah, and other places around town. And then I mean, I've gone back and forth from Nashville to Kansas City so many times. Lived about 13 years in Nashville total. But when I came back, that after that particular time frame, came back to Kansas City, they had this Marlboro Country Music contest going on, and I thought, well, I guess I could get in that. I was a single act, and there was 100 bands or something I was competing against, and I was fortunate enough to take first place in that, and everybody kind of hated me. All the said, that's not fair. This guy can't just come out there with a guitar and do that. But so then after winning that, I got to open at Kemper Arena for George Strait, Ricky Skaggs, and Hank Williams Jr. in front of 12,000. And that was quite an experience. That was the first time I'd been in front of that kind of crowd. And you couldn't even see the front row. The lights were so bright, you know, you just had to just focus on those few people right in the front row, and that was about it. But but anyway, so gosh, there's so many things that have happened over the years. And during this time, I was writing songs, and I've done well on my website, StephenPaulMcCollum.com. There's a bunch of albums on there. I did a song with Kent Wells that you mentioned earlier, or an album with him. Gosh, I bet that was 10 years ago or a little more, and maybe 15, 20 years ago. Time flies, it's crazy, isn't it? But those songs were more straight country, and I remember going to I met with a guy at Warner Brothers, and he says, "Well, this is good stuff." He says, "But we're looking for the I Love This Bar kind of song, you know." And they were looking for more. I just couldn't. My heart couldn't do it because I wanted to bring a positive message and a message about God to our country, and so I knew then that was not going to work for me, you know.
Mm.
So I got in touch with the Christian Country Music Association at the time, and started writing songs along those lines, and that's where I had some success on the Christian Country Music chart. Had one song that went to #1 back in 2006. I wrote that called "Only God Should Play God," and it's a pro-life song. It's got a great message. Um, so, I guess what I can tell you is the calling. What I found in my life, and everybody's probably had different experiences, is it wasn't until I was completely sold out to the Lord. There's a lot of people, and I was one of them that was kind of a 50-50 Christian. You ever heard that, you guys?
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard of
50%.
cafeteria Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, that living on the fence kind of deal,
Yeah.
And I think
Picking the parts you want.
yeah, and I'm ashamed to say it, but at that time I was like, well, God, I can only give you half of my life because I might get a record deal,
Sure.
and so you're holding all this back, and so there come a time it's probably 20 years ago or so that I just finally said, God, I'm all in. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And there's something that happens that's funny, and I think was it Larry Ballard that was on your show?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that I was watching, and he has the same kind of thing. It's like, well, if you remember Catherine Coleman from way back in the '60s, she said it's not some. She said it's not some of thee, some of God, and some of thee. It's none of you and all of God. It's all God, not me at all. I got to get myself out of the way. As soon as I got myself out of the way, then I start getting these, and I still get them today. These, not every day, but around 5 or 5:15, I remember Larry saying that God talks to him and he gets these, this to-do list. How's that? Here's what
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah.
do. And I'm like, and I know it's God because I had never thought about it, you know? So when I was all in, then he started showing me stuff. And when I got back to Kansas City, it would have been in 2005, 2006. I read this book, and you guys might have read it before. It's called "What If America Were a Christian Nation Again" by D. James Kennedy. Have y'all read that?
I have
I've
not.
heard of the book. You
I
read it?
have not read
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was shocking to me when I started to see how far our country has fallen away from God. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have a clue. And then I learned about wall builders with David Barton. I think you probably know who he is.
Yeah, we know
And
him.
Yeah.
yeah, and as I started studying all this, it put a fire in my heart that what can I do to help bring our country back to God and to return to what our founding fathers put in motion? That's so big. Somehow we have to go back to that. And it's not going to be an easy task, but I think if we don't know from whence we've come, how can we get back there? You know?
And
So,
that's what they're not teaching in schools anymore. You're absolutely right. So it's a reclamation of history. It's kind of like, when the Jews had to be reminded what the Old Testament scriptures said because everybody had forgotten.
right. It's so sad. And so just some of the things I just thought I'd throw out to the audience here that some of you may have heard them, but probably not. I don't know. Of course, that we were
So,
founded
hey,
on.
Stephen, your
Yeah.
song number one. So when you're talking about bring us back to where we started, I think that is a absolutely great song. And so, and you wrote the words of that song, right?
We want what we had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
Yeah.
write the words to
Uh,
that?
yeah. I mean,
It,
that's what's so weird. It's all a download. It's in a
uh,
sense it's prophetic because it's not me. I finished these songs and I'm like, okay, where did that come from?
well, Mozart had, not Mozart. I'm trying to think of the guy who wrote the Hallelujah chorus. I'm drawing a blank. Handel.
Yeah.
Handel said the
Yeah.
same thing about Handel's Messiah. It was just a download. He spent days just in isolation writing what his head was hearing. And it's kind of fun to think God does the same thing with country music.
Mhm.
He likes all kinds of music.
Yeah. So I really
Yes.
I do believe, Stephen, that God told you to write he gave
Yeah.
you those words.
He told Handel, he
Yeah.
can tell Stephen.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so
Yeah.
you ready to play that first song or?
Well, I just wanted to share a couple of things
Yeah.
if I could.
Okay. Sure.
99.8% of the people in our nation were Christians by the time of the American Revolution. That's nobody even knows this. So were we a Christian nation in the beginning? Absolutely. And then our founding documents like the Cradle of the Republic, the Mayflower Compact, the Articles of Confederation, all mention God and that they came to America to advance the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ. Wow. 52 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Christians. The first session, I love this, the first session of the Continental Congress in 1774 started with prayer that lasted 3 hours and included Bible study. Wow, how far we've come from that. Patrick Henry stated that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. So it seems like, you guys, that we've been fed this big lie that we're supposed to separate church from state.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what our founders believed in. They believed that there should be a marriage between church and state. In fact, this is
If
interesting,
they had
John.
said it the other way around, we might not be as confused. It was separation of state and church. The state was not supposed to, because in England, the king was head of the church. The separation actually meant the government and the church could not be ruled by the same person.
Right.
And all of British taxes were, I should say that the state or the church coffers were filled by British taxes. And that's what the separation was, is that the government couldn't force you to pay for the state-run church, that you had the freedom to believe as you wanted. And that is entirely different than what the progressives have interpreted it to mean by design.
Well, the separation of church and state, that phrase was in that letter from Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist. And he was basically saying, we're not going to let the government tell you how to worship. So it's not even it's not in our documents. So, I mean, I don't know where they come up with this, but, and the one last thing I was going to tell you is that John Quincy Adams said that Christian principles and civil government would be tied together in an indissoluble bond.
Because only a virtuous people can be free.
Yeah.
That's what he said, John Adams.
As I began to understand all this, like I was saying, he starts downloading these songs. And there's been a whole bunch of other ones, like the first one you heard. But this one that you're getting ready to play, We Want What We Had, is one that I just wrote in the last year, 6 months maybe. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are saying, gosh, I want what we had back when we were kids. You know, we had a great life back then. You didn't have to lock your doors hardly, you know. We want what we had. And I hope everybody enjoys this and is touched by this song.
Okay, very good. I think it's a great song. I think everyone's going to enjoy that. Let's play that one, Matt. Thank you very much.
Back in 1776, we were doing pretty well. We broke free from the tyranny and rang that Liberty Bell. For many years we were rocking along, everything was going fine. Now we're seeing change and bad rearranging that's affecting our lives. We want what we had when we were growing up. It's time to bring America back. Yeah, we've seen enough. We want God, family, and country to be the pillar on which we stand. We want what we had. Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, America was doing great. We had country music, rock and roll, dance to disco in those days. It was a different life we lived back then, and nothing like today. It's sad our kids and our grandkids won't have a chance to live that way. We want what we had when we were growing up. It's time to bring America back. Yeah, we've seen enough. We want God, family, and country to be the pillar on which we stand. We want what we had. Maybe instead of just complaining, we should join hands to bring America back to God so we can save this land. What we had when we were growing up. It's time to bring America back. Yeah, we've seen enough. We want God, family, and country to be the pillar on which we stand. We want what we had. We want what we had. Bring America back. We want what we had. Bring America back. We want what we had. Bring America back. We want what we had.
I think that's a great song.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Who's on guitar for that one?
Well, Kent plays a lot of that stuff.
Okay, but
He
it wasn't you, huh?
no.
No.
Are you kidding?
Okay.
He's
Yeah, we have.
he started. I got to tell you about this guy. He when we had moved to Nashville, he was just moving to Nashville as a guitar player, and we were looking for a new guitar player, and so his name was on the board at the Musicians Union downtown. And later on, he told me I kept moving my index card to the middle every day, so people would see me up there. Well, when he came and auditioned, we all looked at each other and said, "Wow, this guy's unbelievable." I was strumming on Rocky Top as fast as I could, and he could outplay me quicker on lead guitar. I was like, "This is unbelievable." So he went on to play with Reba McEntire and Lee Greenwood, and then now he produces Dolly Parton and myself and a bunch of people. But yeah, it's incredible how good all those musicians. If you haven't ever recorded it or been to a recording session in Nashville, it's mind-boggling, amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's a pool of talent that's exciting to be with. What about your
yeah,
next song, That We Would Be One? How did that come about?
thank you for asking that. Yeah, notice in that song in the middle of that song it said maybe instead of just complaining, we should join hands to bring America back to God, save this land. Well, that's what we're called to do in the church because it all starts with us as believers, right? So I believe one of the main, and sad as it is, I believe one of the main reasons that we've fallen away from God is because of the division we're seeing in the churches. And I hate seeing that, or I hate saying that, but there's a lot of truth to it. So somehow we've got to, and that's why I like Acts Ministry and Acts Media Group, because you guys are all about unity and oneness in the Holy Spirit. Somehow we have to get back to that because we're the ones that should lead our country back to God. Am I right?
That's
You're
right.
right.
So I was reminded of a scripture. There's several scriptures that came to mind when I got that song, and one of them was 1 Corinthians 1:12 and 13, where Paul said, "Some of you are saying, I'm of Apollos, I'm of Christ, I'm of Cephas." Then Paul said, "Is Christ divided?" And you could relate that to today. Today, people are saying, "I'm a Baptist, I'm a Lutheran, I'm Pentecostal, I'm Episcopal, I'm Catholic, I'm Methodist." Would Paul say that the church is divided today? He would. Why can't we just say we're Christians? You know, we've got to break down these walls that are dividing us. And I was trying to think of what else. Oh, you know what? I was thinking about when I would. Were you guys in Young Life by any chance in high school or
We've
anything?
had a Young Life organization in Springfield. It was brought here at the time my daughter was in high school, so that was 20 years ago. But personally, no, I haven't been a part of that.
Well, it is a spinoff of Campus Crusade, but it
Uh,
was so neat because we met in, people's houses, just in like the finished basement or something. And you'd have 30, 40 kids, and they were all different faiths, and it didn't matter. None of us really cared. And I remember there was a song that we sang, and I bet Lynn remembers this, that we are one in the Spirit, we are one in the
I
Yes,
Lord.
remember
Remember
yes,
that?
it. Yeah.
yes, I know that song.
What a beautiful song. We need that.
Right.
We need to have that feeling again. Um, so I believe, before we get on that song, I believe the answer to this whole thing is found in Jesus' high priestly prayer in John 17:20 to 23. If you don't mind, let me read this because it's so good. He said, "I do not pray for these alone, but I also pray for those who will believe in me through their word," which is us, right? "That they may be one, as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they may be one in us." I mean, I look at that and I go, man, Lord, that's really one. That oneness between the Father and the Son is really one. We're not even close. And then he goes on and says, "That the world may believe that you sent me. And the glory which you gave me, I've given them, that they may be one, I and them, and you and me, that they may be made perfect in one, that the world may know that you have sent me." So God has shown me over the years, he said, take that and turn it the other way. so you can see what happens. And I said, okay, if we're divided, the world looks at us as hypocrites
Mm-hmm.
instead of looking at us as, here's the answer to Jesus. This is who the answer is for this whole thing, is the Lord. My gosh, I mean, we have got to break down those walls that are dividing us, you know. So anyway, I mean, I could go on and on about it. I know you guys see that too. I was trying to think, somebody told me, I think it was a friend of mine, Bob Bledsoe, that this is just kind of a neat example. He said there was a church, these are kind of little country churches in this one city, and it was, you know, a couple blocks down, totally different denomination than the one down the street. Well, one day they just took their whole congregation and showed up at church with the other church. And they were all out there, you know, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people. And the pastor said, man, what are you guys all doing here? And they said, we just want to bless you. We're going to take our tithes and give them to you guys. And we're here. I mean, my goodness, folks, wouldn't that be cool if we can start being one like that? We've got to start breaking down these walls that are dividing us and becoming one in the spirit, because man, if we could do that, we could turn this country around and everybody would start looking at Jesus as the answer, because people would be going, what is going on here? These guys really love each other. I've never seen anything like this before. You know, there's your answer right there. And that's why that song, if you're getting ready to play it, that God gave me that song, that we would be one. And the words in there will kind of talk about what I just talked about.
All right, let's play that song, Matt.
Ready to go. Okay, sorry, I need to turn the audio on. My bad. It was on. Here we go. Ready?
Ready.
We're all separated when we should be one. We think our church is the only one that's right. We hate when we should love. The world sees our segregation, and they call us hypocrites. As long as we're separated, they'll never know Jesus is. Jesus prayed to the Father that we would all be one, and that same glory would be in us as in the Father and the Son, that we'd be vessels of mercy, pouring out forgiveness and love, walking out the heart of Jesus, that we would be one. It's time we break down the walls and build a bridge by simply calling ourselves Christians, as the first believers did. If we want to save our families, our churches and our land, it's time we put away our differences and reach out and join hands. Jesus prayed to the Father that we would all be one, and that same glory would be in us as in the Father and the Son, that we'd be vessels of mercy, pouring out forgiveness and love, walking out the heart of Jesus, that we would be one. Well, we shut up the kingdom with unforgiveness and strife, but if we'll forgive and reconcile to the world, we'll be salt and light. Jesus prayed to the Father that we would all be one, and that same glory would be in us as in the Father and the Son, that we'd be vessels of mercy, pouring out forgiveness and love, walking out the heart of Jesus, that we would be one. Let's walk out the heart of Jesus so we can be one. Well, we need to be one.
We need to be one.
That's the Father's heart for the church, yeah.
That we would be one.
Yeah, that we would be one.
That we would be one.
That's another great song.
You have a
Great
wonderful
song.
voice.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Great,
enjoy
great
that.
words too. So God's given you the perfect words. And you know, one of the things that I want to tell you, because we're gonna run out of time if we don't watch out. But I want you to know, Stephen, you are a difference maker. So Don Blackard, my first co-host, and now Dr. Mary Byrne, we know everybody that's on our show is a difference maker. Don would always say, being the change. You are, sir, being the change. And we want to talk. I want to make sure we don't run out of time. We want to make sure we talk about what you're wanting to do right now in Missouri and in America. And you're at the right time, right spot. So I praise you for that. So let's go on. And you want to just go ahead and talk a little bit about song 3. I want to make sure I give you time in the end to tell people what we need to do to help you get started on this new journey.
All right. Song 3 is His Forgiveness.
Right. I wanted to mention something, Lynn, that you said, and that is a lot of people don't realize that when you are willing to do God's will in your life, you are going to be inconvenienced. And I tell people this, I can't think of anybody, unless you guys think of somebody in the Bible that wasn't inconvenienced.
That's true.
Everybody was. So that's the first step. And I'm willing to go wherever God tells me to go to bring the message that he's telling me to bring, which is his message, not mine anyway, right? So if I go to the Ozarks, if I go to whatever state it is, I'll go and follow what he wants. I remember Catherine Coleman was on stage one time in Israel, and I remember when she first said this, I had this tingling down the spine. She goes, "I'm so glad to be here. I'd rather be here than anywhere else in the whole world, because I know that I'm standing in the perfect will of God." Isn't that amazing?
That's
That's
very
where I
good.
want to.
No
I
matter
don't want
where
to miss.
you are. That's right.
Right.
If you're in that will of God, then you're in the perfect place.
Right. So I know we're getting run out of time here, but I wanted, and I'll try to do this quick. On this song, His Forgiveness, you may be aware of this or not. David Wilkerson, we all remember him. Before his passing, he said the biggest weapon that Satan's using to destroy the church is the unforgiveness between fellow believers. Wow. And I see that so much in there. It's really deeply rooted, and it's
Yeah.
causing this division between us. So God has showed me that, how do you fix this? See, I built, we didn't get into this, but I built a Christian community center in Lee Summit, Missouri. But we were open for about 3 years, from maybe 2008 to 2011. And the idea was to bring the churches together in unity and oneness. Well, I got a full dose of how it doesn't work. Sometimes you have to go through it and experience it to realize what does and doesn't work. We tried dinner theaters, we tried Christian dances, we tried talent shows. We had a church in there, we had city. People would not come together. They seem to want to go back, and not that you abandon the church you're in. You stay there and go to that church, but you got to come together routinely with other Christians from other denominations. So I got to thinking, after I realized that didn't work, I said, Lord, what is the answer to get this thing resolved? And it's about forgiveness. I really believe that's a huge part of it. So when this friend of mine, who's now I've known for, like, he's kind of a spiritual mentor for me, Bob Bledsoe, came into that Christian community center. He started telling me this stuff, and it's funny because I said, can you hold on a second? I got to get a pen and a pad. And I started writing all this down. And I finally realized it starts with us as individuals. So he said in Isaiah 43:7, he told me, he says, "You know why you were created, Stephen?" And I said, "Well, love God." He said, "Well, it says in Isaiah 43:7 that we were created for his glory." And I thought, man, that's pretty cool. And then I was reminded in my mind of, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So I thought, that's interesting. And I asked him, I said, what is the glory? Because I used to go to church and go, I wonder if the glory is going to show up, you know. So I was shocked when I went to Exodus 33:18 and Moses was getting ready to go back on the mountain, and he said, Lord, show me your glory. And he said, I will have all my goodness pass before you, and I'll hide you in the cleft of the rock. You remember the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Exodus 36 and 6 there, he told us what his glory is. He said, I am the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long suffering, abounding in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands. And it's just amazing how that's who he is. And it's really a beholding of who God is and his glory that changes us. In fact, I think that was the first time that Moses ever fell on the ground and worshiped God. That was the first time it talks about it, because he was overwhelmed by the glory of God. So what's beautiful about that, and David talks about beholding the beauty and the glory of the Lord. So how does that pertain to being changed? Well, it says in 2 Corinthians 3:18 that when we behold the beauty and the glory of the Lord on a routine basis, we're being changed into that same image from glory to glory. Isn't that beautiful? And that we can come to the throne of grace 24 hours a day, or 16 waking hours a day, Hebrews 4:16. So that coming to that throne of grace, and you'll hear it in this song, is the key to this thing. The Christian life is actually doable. And I used to think it was so hard when I was younger. This is wearing me out. No, it's coming to the throne of grace and beholding the beauty and the glory of the Lord. And all of a sudden, you're being changed into that same image. And you're like, wow, when I was younger, I had road rage. It's pretty typical with guys, but I started beholding the glory. And then I'd get on the road and I'd go, Lord, forgive them for running me off the road. And I pray they get over there safely. So that change happens as we behold the glory of the Lord. So if we can start all beholding the glory of the Lord on a routine basis, and then receiving his gift of forgiveness to forgive others, and we're being changed, all of a sudden that's going to make us want to run to each other rather than run and hide from one another. And
That's right.
what
You
we
can't
need.
transform under your own power. You have to let God transform you. And
Exactly.
and that's why you were exhausted, is because you were trying to be God by yourself. And that's not how it happens.
And it's funny, before you play that song, that friend of mine, Bob, he said a lot of churches will get saved by grace, and then they'll bring you on in and line up all these treadmills in the church, and now you get on this treadmill of law and performance, and let's see how you do.
Right.
You'll be exhausted. So this is so cool, because this makes it doable. So if we can let people know that you can walk in his forgiveness towards everyone, and by coming boldly to the throne of grace, receiving his gift of forgiveness. Actually, but I got to say one more thing. When I started to understand this, I made a spreadsheet. And I tell anybody that's listening, make a spreadsheet and list everybody you need to forgive on one column and the people that you need to ask forgiveness on the other column. And then you walk that out. The people you need to forgive, you go to the Lord and you forgive them. The ones you need to ask forgiveness, you have to call them or meet them. And it's not an easy thing, but you've done your part. And I'm telling you, it is the most freeing thing you'll ever do. And so we need to not only receive his forgiveness, but we need to pour his forgiveness out to others. And that will help us become one. And then they'll see that we're the answer.
Good advice.
Jesus
We better
is
play a song. We're going to run out of time. So
All
let's
right,
play
buddy.
a song.
Sounds good.
Okay.
When we've been hurt by someone, we take up the offense and hold on to bitterness and anger till we lose them as a friend. We think we have forgiven while our heart fills up with pride. But if we separate ourselves from them, our forgiveness is a lie. But his forgiveness remembers it no more. His forgiveness always seeks to restore. So come boldly to the throne of grace to receive His mercy and His grace. Then just as He forgives you, forgive with His forgiveness. Jesus prayed that we'd be one, so the world would know that He had come. But if we don't forgive and reconcile, we're not walking in His love. We're to love our enemies, but we can't even love our friends. It's time we turn back to the cross and let Him change us from within with His forgiveness. Remembers it no more, His forgiveness always seeks to restore. So come boldly to the throne of grace to receive His mercy and His grace. Then just as He forgives you, forgive with His forgiveness. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, that's His heart of mercy that we should walk into. His forgiveness remembers it no more. His forgiveness always seeks to restore. So come boldly to the throne of grace to receive His mercy and His grace. Then just as He forgives you, forgive with His forgiveness. So come boldly to the throne of grace to receive His mercy and His grace. Then just as He forgives you, forgive with His forgiveness. His forgiveness.
Well, I tell you what, that's a powerful song. So, hey, so we're going to run out of time. How much time we have, Matt? A couple minutes?
You have a minute and a half.
Minute and a half. So listen, Stephen Paul McCollum, I tell you what, you are going to be, you're a disciple of God. You're going to be going around the country. So we got two sponsors very quickly. We're going to owe them some time. So we have Brad Pistow. He is certified fiduciary financial planner located right in Ozark, Missouri, licensed in Missouri, Kansas, and several other states. He's the guy. If you want to know about retirement planning, he's the guy. And also, so Stephen, if you don't have a good retirement plan, this guy is the guy I use. A lot of people use him. He's the best one of the best in the country, not Missouri. Springfield Nissan Kia, John Whittaker, they're our other sponsor. They're what makes this show possible, and we'll talk about them. We're going to have them on our show as a guest in May or June, and so we'll find out a lot more about them, but we owe them a little time. So very quickly, we're going to run out of time. Real quick, what's your plan? You want to go and do some concerts, some patriotic Christian concerts. Is that what you're wanting to do?
Yeah, and I'm already starting on June 28th at the American Legion on 40 Highway in Independence. And you can go to the website, stephenpaulmccullum.com. And when you go there, you just click on tickets, and it tells you all about the times. And they're having a dinner, I think, beforehand from 5 to 7. So we'd love to have everybody come out, and let's just join hands. We're gonna honor the veterans that night as well, and bring all your friends. We're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna honor God, family, and country. And that's what I'm going to be doing throughout wherever I need to go, wherever God leads.
Well, I know we have contacts here in Springfield working to bring you down here too.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to that.
And I'm helping you in Branson. We're going to try to get you in Branson. We're going to try to get you in Springfield, all over the American Legion posts, VFW, different things like that. Hey, thank you very much. You are a difference maker and absolutely a great show today. And you provided the solutions because God is the solutions. Bible is the solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks.
We'll see you
We're the
again. Thank you.
United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're